We're going on now, so let's not talk about it. What's going on, everyone? This is LFC Transfer Room, and this is a unique stream where we're going to be talking about Fantasy Premier League. It's around the corner. We're 2 days away from the season starting. Some random teams playing some random team, and then we play at 12:30 because we always play at 12:30 nowadays. So LFC Transfer Room has created its own Fantasy Premier League, and today we are going to review Game 1 teams. Certain people are keeping their teams under wraps, such as Matty and Neil. Other people have been more transparent, such as me and Mihai. Mihai? Yeah, right. Anyway, it's near enough. So we're going to go through it. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to review team names, because we've got a whole range of team names. And if you do want to join our Fantasy Premier League team, all you have to do is the code running along the ticker tape at the bottom, FU number 0 F54 joins the LFC Transfer Room League, and that way, you know, you'll be able to have bragging rights on chat, have bragging rights with the hosts, point out when Matty's got his Ipswich player completely wrong because he has said that there's an Ipswich player in his starting 11. And we can just go from there. We go, Neil Andrew just popping it in the chat. What's the code? The code is, it's running along the ticker at the bottom, FU number 0 F54. Now, Neil, how are you, sir? Been out golfing all day?
I did play golf first time for a few years, so yeah, it was nice.
What's the handicap? 102?
No, sadly 28. It used to be much better, but since I've got old, it's got much progressively worse.
And Matty, we nearly had a stream in a hot tub, I believe.
That's what Mihai wanted. I didn't give the people what they wanted, though, unfortunately.
I tell you what, if he wins Fantasy Premier League, Matty will do a stream from the hot tub.
Yeah, probably. We'll do that.
And if I win it, I'll wish for Matty to do a stream from the hot tub.
If Mihai wins it, he'll do a stream from Matty's hot tub. Just dip over from Romania. But we're going to start.
Cost of the light.
Let us know what you think. We're going to look at team names that are already live in LFC Transfer Room Fantasy Premier League. Any of those, Neil, stand out? You go, I wish I'd have thought of that one.
Yeah, some of them are quite good, I think. I like Slot on Target. Slotty, anything to do with the new gaffer, I like. Jota the Slotter. I think
Jota the Slotter's kind of a mix of the two, isn't it?
It is. So, yeah, I'd say Jota the Slotter stands out because Jota's in good form, and the new gaffer as well.
And the code is FU number 0 F54 to join the LFC Transfer Room League. If they're going to do any awards or prizes or anything like that, they'll run it throughout the start of the season. Mine's Crouch Potato because I really like that. I think it's quite a clever play on words. Matty, for you, what I can't remember what yours is because you have got a team. I just don't think.
Gonna Believers. I've went with Gonna Believers again because it won me money last year in a few FPL leagues. So I still haven't let go of Klopp. It's my favourite banner that was ever on the Klopp, done by Peter Carney and Soccer in the City. The Gonna Believers banner, it's unbelievable, and I just robbed it from my name last year. And I'm one of them superstitious people, so because it done well last year, I'm keeping it this year. That. And every name I tried to do with Slot got banned. So I'm surprised to see so many got Slot name in because maybe I was just being a bit too explicit with my names.
I've got to say, Charlie's Arn's Dirty Slots, the fact that got through and is an actual team name is quite impressive. And then we've got Drew.
Yeah, the best one there,
the Mane attraction.
The best one is probably Crouch Potato, I'll be honest. Like that's a good one, that. Very good.
I saw it and I was playing FIFA. Well, it's not called FIFA anymore. I was playing EAFC or whatever you want to call it. And someone, that was their team name. I was like, I'm having that. I am definitely having that.
It is a good one.
Drew went with the Mane attraction. You know, same reason as Matty tried to replicate his success of a not top 10 finish. So obviously Drew, but you know, for an American not to become in the top 10 is fine. Mihai, which is your name? Which one is yours? Oh, you said there's a way to say it as well. So now you're here, you can say how you want it said.
Show me Diaz. That's it. That's the best I could have done. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was pretty obvious, but then not a lot of people got it. So
Who's
I-
Trent LFC?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I have got it. It's
It's not very creative, that's all.
no, of course it's not. FC Barcelona. Guess
I
whose
wonder
that
who
is?
that is, yeah.
But yeah, if
I
we
need
look
to
at
beat you, Carter.
you see, we've got.
Do you know what though? That's actually a good name by Carter. To be fair, when you say it in your head because it's his name, that's quality. That
It's the best. I couldn't do anything with my name in, so yeah, I'll give it that. But we're looking best part of nearly 70 people in the thing already since we've gone live. So we're definitely growing in terms of numbers and stuff like that. But let's have a look at the first team. Let's do some critical evaluation. Do you have any rules when it comes to Fantasy Premier League? I try and do no more than 2 players from one club. That's my rule. I try and do 2-2-2 if I'm going to do that, so that I don't put all my eggs in one basket. Neil, have you got any sort of?
I'll try and avoid Spurs players if I can. That's the
Kind of makes sense. I don't think I've done that, but yeah. I mean, back end of the season.
I avoid Everton players usually, but this year I can't see past Jared Brantwaite.
I try and avoid United players. I don't like having them in because it kind of feels like when they do well, it's like it just feels wrong. I can't balance those. Mihai, have you got any rules when it comes to FPL?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really like to necessarily limit myself when it comes to stuff like that. It's like number of players than anything of the sort. I just, especially when it's game week 1, I'm just thinking I'll accept that I'm gonna regret a lot of the picks, and I'm not really trying to be too definitive about anything, because I remember last season I was like 5th in like the 26th game week, and then at the end 12 game weeks later I was in first. So it's kind of pretty easy to kind of get through, especially when you start using chips. It's easy to get back some of the points that you've lost on the way. So yeah.
Last year in LFC League, Stephen Garrett was way in front of everyone, light years ahead. Second half of the season, did a full-on Spurs, as Neil referenced earlier, just completely choked. I think he finished about 5th in the end. But we're going to have a look at the first team.
Yeah.
Sorry, just before we do, bit of breaking news. Looks like Liverpool have agreed a fee with Salzburg for Bobby Clark.
Does it say how much? 10 or 12?
Just looking at the chat.
They've had that hands down.
Yeah.
It's a deal for the guy, isn't it? Salzburg. It's Pep Linders.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't agree with coming and taking players, especially when you're taking very talented youth players for buttons.
Yeah. Dean in the chat said around 10 million, so I don't know if there's any official fee.
I reckon it's probably 12.5 million euros, isn't it? To probably about £10 million.
Talented player. I mean, you've watched the under 23s, under 21s, Matty, and you've seen him, and I've seen him for them as well. And good player.
He's very good. Very, very good. Be a big miss. Wouldn't surprise me if he's back in the Prem in a year. I think he's far too good for Salzburg as well, to be honest. He could probably go and play in Germany for like in Dortmund or Leipzig or something, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, that's the path, isn't it? Salzburg, Leipzig, back to the
Bayern.
big time. I think it's probably a good idea. Well, Bayern, or if it's an English player, potentially, Dortmund, Real Madrid. Or Newcastle, which he was linked with, wasn't he? Last season, he was linked with a move back to Newcastle, wanted to play where his dad was and stuff like that. And everyone was like, get rid. And now all of a sudden he's, everyone's like, oh, he's such a good talent. How can we be only selling him for this amount of money?
No, he is very, very good, Bobby Clark. There's certain players in that youth academy I would let go. People like Harvey Blair, I think I'd let him go. But for me, Bobby Clark was someone who probably could have broke through the first team this year, especially considering we haven't bought a midfielder to let midfielders go as crackers.
Right. So, first team. Let's have a look. Neil, give me. Obviously, apart from Spurs players, which you would avoid, this is Jonathan's team. I have no idea how you pronounce that. Hemekluben, FK.
Yeah.
So we've got Turner in goal, Dogi, Virgil, Kirkes, McAllister, Bentancur, Palmer, Salah, Decore, Haaland, and Tony. This seems like someone that wanted to get Salah, Palmer, and Haaland in a team, and everyone else is just whatever.
Well, I don't know. I think if you look defensively, so the goalkeeper, so he's gone for Matt Turner. I don't know if he's going to be first choice. I did see that a lot of people had selected him, but I wouldn't back Forest to keep that many clean sheets. So that's a bit dicey. I think the back three, Doggy, very good going forward, but gets a load of bookings. So not sure about that. Verge. I think will be a bit more will be better defensively this year. So we might get some more clean sheets, and he'll obviously get his fair share of goals. And Kirkhair's very talented left back, bombs forward, so could get some assists. So I think average back four players. Maka, started to really kick on, get goals and assists towards the end of the season, so could be a momentum player. Bentancur, good player, but will he do enough in goals and assists? Not so sure. Decore I guess he's a cheaper option, but you're not going to get much in terms of points from him. And then the two goal scorers up front. So yeah, top heavy as you say. A reasonable team.
What do you think about putting DMs in your squad, Matty? Because it's something I try and avoid. Because you want to, even defenders, I want to try and get defenders who get points. I want to try and get midfielders who get points. Decore, Bentancur, maybe McAllister's going to play 6 as well, so he might not. I mean, Liverpool system's still work in progress. Obviously, Jones played 6 and scored. So, what are you thinking? Would you lose one of the big 3 and get a bit more goal threat from elsewhere? Maybe a Smith Rowe, maybe a Carvalho.
Yeah. I think that you won't see many teams this year with Salah, Palmer, and Haaland. Maybe Salah and Palmer, but Haaland at 15 mil. It's a tough one, really. Like, I know you feel like if you don't have many bags at hat-trick, you're like, oh, I should have had them. But the point system's changed this year, so there's a lot better value for money players in terms of how the point system's going to work in the FPL this year. And looking at his team there, I probably wouldn't have Decore and Bentancur and McAllister because they are 6s. I wouldn't put a 6 in the midfield. The midfield looks like it's the prime position to earn your points this season with the way the new format is. And I don't think having a defensive midfielder gets you them points that you could potentially get utilising other options. I think Smith Rowe will be fantastic for Fulham. So he's definitely a good shout. I think Carvalho will do well at Brentford as well. So again, he's another good shout. But I just feel like this team strikes me as someone who's went on and being like, I want Palmer, Salah, Haaland, Virgil, and just fit whatever else I can in around that. Even Turner, loads of people seem to use him, but I just don't like him as a goalkeeper. I think there's better goalkeepers out there. I went with Raya and Areola last year, and I think that's what I'm going to stick with this year, alternating the two of them. It worked really, really well. One other keeper I'm looking at is the one Liverpool are meant to be bringing in. I think he'll do well at Bournemouth. So when his price is revealed, I think he's probably going to be a keeper that I will side with, because I feel like he might be quite cheap and he's going to surprise a few people as well. So yeah, that team doesn't excite me. It doesn't worry me. There's no one. You look at that midfield and you think of players like Anthony Gordon, Phil Foden. They aren't in there, and
there's not consistent points coming as it is. Yeah, it's going to peak and then it's going to drop.
You're banking on the fact that the majority of FPL is probably not going to have Haaland. I think he's the lowest owned player he's been in this whole time in the Premier League. I think quite a lot of people thought I'm not wasting 15 million on Haaland, and it does look like he's pretty much banking on Haaland running the show. Now, Haaland, for me, didn't have as good a year last year as he did in his debut year. Still fantastic, still the best striker in the world, but I'd be interested to see, like, he does get injuries, and then what happens with that team? Because then you've got 15 million, but you've got to have to take 2 or 3 players out to spend that 15 million efficiently, which then you're going to take a minus points. And that's the problem with Haaland, really. I think if you're putting them in, you've just got to ride it out and have them for the full season for it to work. Otherwise,
he did bag in 5 in pre-season. So he has got a good amount of goals, Haaland. So I think you're guaranteed points. It's just, does it cost you more than it makes you?
It's even Tony. Will Tony stay at Brentford? He's been offered mad money, hasn't he, by Saudi Arabia? So he might go over there. So players like that, where there's still certain question marks over their head, I probably wouldn't roll with that for opening week, because if there's question marks over their head, are they going to even play if clubs want them to be trying? If Ivan Toney's leaving Brentford, for example, they aren't going to play him against Crystal Palace, because if he gets injured and he wants to sell, it ruins any potential of that. I think Jonathan's got the potential to fix that team if he just takes out having 3 sixes in your 5-man midfield is a bit crazy to me, points wise. I think, yeah, they'll get you 2 points, maybe 3 points, but I just think you can do so much more than that. Like, you could take them out and you could get a Foden in, or you could get a Smith Rowe in, or something like that. Even someone like Curtis Jones, who's probably, but by the looks of it, going to be playing for Liverpool every week, because we haven't bought a 6. So why not throw someone like that in? I just think there's a better way to use Liverpool players than Salah, Virgil, and McAllister. Like, you look at that team, there's no Trent. Trent's the most creative footballer in the world, and he's not in the team. So it's a bit of a few mad decisions there from Jonathan, I think.
Mihai, let's have a look at. Let's move on to the next one, and then you can give the critique on that. We've got Lewis with slot on target. Now, he's decided to go with Darwin and Haaland up front, and he's gone with Trossard, which is an interesting one. Mihai, do you think Darwin's going to start the season? Or, I mean, he's got him as captain here at the moment. I don't think he'll stick as captain when game 1 kicks off. Because for me, my money's on Jota to start, not Darwin. Where are you at? You're on mute.
Sorry, I did it. So yeah, I think for me, I also think that Jota will start. So I think that's a minute to risk right there with Darwin, and that's, well, to be fair, that's the case with any Liverpool forward except Mo Salah probably. Trossard's the same thing. Minutes wise, you can be sure he's gonna play. He always seems to get involved when he plays, but it's just that you won't really have the guarantee that he'll play that much. McGinn, yeah, is one of those picks that, one of those mids that won't really get you a lot of points, I think. And also Kudus. Now, I don't know what Lopetegui wants to do with that West Ham side, and they've signed a few interesting players as well. So I would suspect that he starts, but with some of the players that they've signed, like, well, even Somerville, when you think about it, players like that can take some minutes off of him. Like, instead of him staying on for 80 minutes, he might stay on for 55, 60, which, takes away from the points potential. And then also, I think Aid Nuri is a player that I've also looked at, but I think that with the fixtures at the moment, he's not worth it.
Yeah. Trossard, Neil, has got 1 goal in pre-season.
Team there, though. I think what's interesting with the Lewis's team is he's got 2 defenders who are playing against each other in the first week, which is a bit suicidal, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And Chelsea, Man City is a big game, like, generally, because you're not 100% sure how it's going to go, because they've got a lot of players from both sides coming back who might be playing with no preseason and stuff like that. But looking at it, Neil, Trossard's got 1 goal in preseason. Kudus has got 2 goals and an assist. Smith Rowe's got a couple of goals in preseason, so he has got goals in the team. John McGinn's a weird one. That seems a bit weird. He's made no goals, no assists in preseason. I assume he came back for part of it because of Scotland. Maybe someone like
the new point
Carvalho
system, though,
would be
it's
better.
not very much. Nah, with the new point system, though, I know it sort of counteracts the point of me saying about having 6s, but with McGinn, if he's making like passes before the pass and successful duels and stuff like that, then he will get about bonus points. So, and John McGinn's very, 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 very good at like defensive duels, ball recoveries, aerial duels. Yeah, so I think from Lou, that could be a bit of a masterstroke, I'll be honest.
What would you grade it out of 10, Neil?
7.
That's a good solid 7. That's a good start, I think. As 7, like if you've got a 7 for your first.
It's when you're picking 5 midfielders and you've got Salah, Haaland, and Trent in the team. McGinn being your worst option in midfield is not too bad. The Trossard one, I just don't think he's going to play. So he will play, but it'll be cameos in matches because it'll be Martinelli out left. I would think, and as you say, Darwin won't be starting certainly this weekend anyway.
Mohammed, the code is on the ticker at the bottom, but also for anyone that's wanting to join our league, it's FU number 0 F54. So you can join. We've got about 100 people in the league now, so it's probably more actually. It's growing rapidly. So join, come on stream, tell Matty how stupid he is for putting an Ipswich player in his team. I'm sure he'd love that. That's the whole point of this.
I'm just gonna wait. I'll reveal it Ipswich player. I'm gonna.
You can reveal it at the end.
At the end of the stream. Yeah, I'm intrigued to see if anyone else has got him in, and I'll give you the reason why when I reveal it, because he is a hidden gem, honestly.
Well, Matty, here's Stephen's team. The Irishman.
I like it a lot.
It's a good-looking team for me. For me, it's a solid like 8 to 9 out of 10. There's very good spread. I just think 3 Liverpool players. I try and avoid 3s of anything.
I'd give him a 10 out of 10 team there, you know. I think that's a solid team from Steve. And you look into fixtures, Trent's probably going to be more creative, dare I say it, than what he was under Jurgen with this new system. Pedro Porro can get you some yellow cards and stuff, but again, another solid option. Michalenko, if you look at Everton, as much as you want them to do bad, if they didn't have the points deduction last year, I think they would have finished above Chelsea. And Michalenko was very, very good for them. So I think that's a good option. I personally would probably go with Branthwaite over Michalenko for Everton, but I can see the thinking behind it. The only question mark I'd have is Eze, because if he then does go to Spurs, like we've seen rumoured a little bit, I would avoid 3 Spurs players in anything. I just think they're too much of a hit and miss. But I think Solanke will do well at Spurs. I think that's a good option. And Isaac and Gordon, I'd love them. But what will be interesting is if Liverpool do sell Lucho and bring Gordon in towards the end of the window, which Liverpool players Steve going to take out, or is he going to lose Gordon? Because I think Gordon, for me, is someone you should keep in every fantasy footy side. I think he's fantastic. But that'll be interesting to see for Stephen if Gordon did make the move. Is it Josh Salah or Trent he takes out, or does he lose Gordon?
Oh, look at him. You see, what's he saying? 10 I have the same player as Matty. I tell you what,
put
Stephen,
in the comments.
if Gordon signs to Liverpool, who are you dropping? That's what we want to know.
I'll tell you now, actually, what Ipswich player while he says that. So the Ipswich player I've gone in my team is Leif Davies. He's a defender. But last season he had 2 goals and 18 assists for Ipswich. Now I know the Premier League's a little bit of a different calibre to the Championship, but your form doesn't drop off from 18 assists to next to nothing in your first season. I think Ipswich will surprise a few people. And Leif Davies is a very good option, I feel, as a defensive option. He's cheap as well. And then there's also Ben Johnson. He's decent as well. I feel like he could be a little bit like John Lundstrom. That year he came up with Sheffield United and bossed it and no one expected it. I think he's got the potential. Leif Davies for Ipswich's stats last year, unless he falls off a cliff, I could eat my words, but 18 assists in the Championship. The Championship's a hard league. Even if he gets half of that, one other defender's racking up like 9 assists across the Premier League. Yeah, Stephen's on it. He knows. He's looked at the stats, and he is for me, he's a very hidden gem for FPL this year. And this is why I don't like revealing my team, because players like that will reveal themselves halfway through the season when people think, has he got enough for assists? Why didn't I put him in?
So just if we look at Ipswich's pre-season, he's done nothing. Nothing. And
I
nothing.
wouldn't base nothing on pre-season. Based on pre-season, Fabio Carvalho should be starting for Liverpool, but he's at Brentford, so.
And will he be starting for Brentford? I suspect so.
100%.
One player I'm not sure will be starting the first game of the season that Stephen's got in his team, Mihai, is Ollie Watkins. And the reason I don't know if Ollie Watkins will be starting is because Cameron Archer, who they signed from Sheffield United, has been on fire for them in pre-season, bagging 4 goals. So, I mean, there's a good chance that he's not up to match fitness yet. Ollie Watkins may come off the bench, may play 60 minutes plus, but he might not be ready. And Stephen's got him in the starting berth. Or do you think, because they've had a couple of tricky results in pre-season, they lost to Dortmund, they lost to Club America, they lost to Leipzig, that actually they just need to bring him in as soon as possible?
Yeah, I think for me, Watkins and Palmer are going to be the ones that I'm very, very interested to see how they start off the season, because they've had their last season was so good, probably above everyone's expectations of them. So I'm just curious to see if that continues. And one other thing that I also thought about when I saw Dominic Solanke move to Spurs, instead like the first 2-3 seconds, my mind just went straight to FPL, and I thought, yeah, I think I'm going to get him in my team as well. But then it's interesting because with Ange, he also likes to rotate, right? And I feel like with Solanke, well, I don't find too many rational arguments that are going to tell me that he's not going to do well at Spurs, but I would like to give him a few more game weeks to prove how he fits into that, which might as well lose me some points, but at least I'll make an informed decision. So at the moment, I wouldn't touch.
I'd say
Solanke.
trust your gut, Mihai. Trust your gut. He's a striker who plays very well with fast wingers, which Spurs have. They're not going to spend 65 million rotating for Richarlison. Richarlison will be the one who comes on probably 70 odd minutes for winners, but I think Solanke is gonna have a very good season at Spurs. I really do.
Everything's lined up to feed him, isn't it? You've got Maddison behind him, you've got Kulusevski on the left, you've got Son on the right. Everything's feeding Solanke, which is how it was set up for Kane, wasn't it?
And Leicester away first game of the season. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a good fixture.
I'll tell you what, Neil, why don't you give us your opinion on Anil's Wataru smoking VAR?
So, yeah, back 4, good. Not sure about Trippier. I mean, there were strong rumours that he was going at one stage. So, Trippier has been a high-scoring FPL player for the years he's been in the Premier League, but whether that will continue now, because they've got Livramento, haven't they? Who I think is a decent player. So the other two and Raya, good. Then in midfield, good players. I'm not sure as a midfield though whether that's going to be high scoring enough, because as we've already said, McAllister will probably play quite deep. So that might limit what he can do. And Ward-Prowse, I'm not sure whether he'll be a starting player. So he did start, and he did start well for West Ham last year, but then he wasn't a starting player. Kudus and Saka, good. Gibbs-White, I like Gibbs-White, and I think he's a really good player, but whether there's enough end product for him, I'm not so sure. And the forward line looks a bit lightweight to me. So Solanke, I think, will do well. Mateta excelled at the back end of last season, and he's done okay, I think, for France at the Olympics. But I wouldn't be banking on him to be a consistent scorer. So yeah, I'm a bit underwhelmed by it.
Out of 10?
5.
Oof. Average. Although Matty looks like he agrees. He's looking at it going, it's not the one. I think Mateta being at the Olympics probably doesn't start the season, does he? Because he's going to need to reintegrate back and get fully up to speed.
No, he probably doesn't start the season. He's someone who excites me. I think he's the next big money departure from Palace, probably next summer. I think he's a fantastic player. But Palace are in a big bit of a transition this year. They've lost some key players. And yeah, the Olympics only finished last week. They went all the way to the final. He was pivotal for Henry's side. So you're assuming he's probably going to then get like 2 weeks off. So he's probably not even back in pre-season. I know some players who've been in the Olympics have already back in club sides, but not everyone. But yeah, I agree with Neil. The strike force looks a bit weak. I like Gibbs White, but again, Forest could have a brilliant season or have a shocking season. They're another Chelsea really with so many players, so much rotation. I try and avoid anyone but say a Cole Palmer from them sides because there is that many players. I can't see Ward-Prowse start, and I don't think he's a Lopetegui player. A lot of people seem to be using McAllister. Best advice I can give is I tried to use McAllister last year and he got me about 30 points in about 20 weeks because he does play deep. You just don't get nothing off him. Them few weeks he played as the 8th week, I got a good few points off Mac, but I wouldn't have him in your side. I don't think he really offers much, just better attacking options. I think in the way the system works this year, you're better having a player from, say, a lesser side for the same money who's attacking than, say, a McAllister from Liverpool who's a defensive midfielder.
Now, whilst we've been on stream, make sure that you leave a like and subscribe. We go live every day at 7:30. The code to join our Fantasy Premier League is FU, the number 0, F54. Now, since we've been live, there's been a couple of, there's been loads of people that have joined, but a couple of the names have stood out to me that I thought we might appreciate, which is Haven't Jot a Clue, which I think solid. You're a Wizard, Harry. So instead of you're a wizard, Harry, you're a wizard. I think Kicking Caesar Salah.
Yeah.
Liam FC's not good, Liam. You can do better than that. I'm sorry, but that's not what we're about. Slot Ball, Arn's Army, Gordon's Alive. Endo the Line.
Decent.
Cops and Slobbers.
Think we've had
Sobberslide, so it's spelt like Sobberslide.
We used to have Klops and Robbers last year, didn't we? Someone had that.
Yeah.
They're the main ones that stand out. Next team, Mihai, is this is yours. You're the second person to put Saka in. It's not used. Are we being Liverpool snobs by avoiding Saka? Are we all making a fundamental mistake avoiding Saka? Because you've put him in there.
He's awful.
Matt is ready to tear this team apart. Justify Saka to us. What are we doing wrong?
Penalties, plays constantly. He's not being left out, not really rotated, and he always seems to find a way to get himself involved. So, yeah, I just think that if they're gonna score 4 or 5 in a game, in a match, whatever, I think Saka's gonna be involved. So, yeah, the thing is, Arsenal are obviously a lot better than they used to be, right? And I think the one player that you should have from that side, if you take away their defense, is probably Saka in terms of minutes, penalties, and all that.
3 Newcastle players.
Yeah, the one that I was
strong secret Newcastle fan this year.
Yeah, I really rooting for them last season. They were pretty great. Also had I remember I bought Gordon. I sold Mo Salah for Gordon that week. I remember it very well. And Mo blanked and Gordon scored 17 points. So from that point onwards, I was like, yeah, I'm a Newcastle fan for the rest of the season. The one player that I wasn't sure about is obviously Burn. Thing is, I had to make some sacrifices in order to fit everyone that I wanted to fit. So that was one of them. Cat's out of the bag. So I've also had Davies in the team from Ipswich. So I'm still not completely sure if he makes the cut or not, but I'm gonna have to wait and see. And yeah, I think the one thing that when I made my first draft, Mo Salah was in it, Haaland wasn't, but the FOMO, I've seen a comment in the chat as well regarding the Haaland FOMO. It's starting to kick in, and yeah, it's really tough to justify not having him in a team. I get the thing that you may have a lot more funds to play around with, and probably get more points, but he's just like that sort of player that can score you a hat trick, and and out of nothing by basically getting passes in front of goal. He doesn't really have to work for it that much sometimes. So you just gotta, it's tough. I mean, he's really expensive, but I don't think I'll start the season without him. And one other thing that I wasn't sure about is the keeper, but I don't really want to invest in a keeper. One thing that I found really interesting is that also that I've thought about is what Matty said about Mamartashvili if he goes to Bournemouth. I feel like that's a lot of save points from him. That would be so that would be something that I'm interested in, but I wouldn't want to invest too much in a keeper in the beginning of the season. And also, I'm not sure about Gibbs White, but good fixtures from him, takes penalties. I would be inclined to take a punt on him, at least for like the first 3 weeks. So
now, Neil, to me, obviously we'll talk about him like he's not here now. I can remove him out of the stream if you want. This screams to me as a week one team. A lot of players, all at home, all relatively easy fixtures. You got 3 Newcastle, Southampton. You got Wolves, you got Ipswich away, you got Bournemouth at home, you got Leicester away. Seems like a very comfortable start. So I expect Mihai will have a good first week. It's just fixture 2 and fixture 3.
Yeah,
how those come through.
Yeah, I think he's got some high scoring players potentially across the course of the season, though, hasn't he? So Alexander-Arnold, Pedro Porro did well last year, Saka, Gordon, Jota if he stays fit, Isak and Haaland. So I think he's got some big hitters in there, and then it's what the rest can kind of do. So I think I disagree slightly. I think he's got the core of a team that could do well across the course of a season, and not just in that game week 1 fixture.
It's that switch, isn't it? There's always the cheap players that start to come through, and you've got to sign them before they creep up in price, and you can't make a team work. Yeah. Matty, you're not 100% sold. So what is it that you think's lacking? Is it a third Liverpool player? Is it Curtis Jones?
Yeah, I think Curtis would make the team. Now, for me, it's Saka. I understand why so many people in FPL use him. I used him last year and he fired blanks for weeks and weeks on end. He has a bad game. He limps off the pitch. I think he's very overrated. I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for that, but for me, I think Saka is very, very, very overrated. I think this Arsenal side don't rely on Saka as much as they did, say, 2 seasons ago. I can understand the logic around he takes pens and stuff, but I'm just scratching my head why he's got Isaac as captain. Southampton are not an easy side, I don't think, even though Newcastle are at home. Newcastle haven't been in fantastic form, you could say. I think Southampton will go and take the game to them there. I think if you're looking for a captain opening weekend, I'd probably be going Jota.
He might not have selected his captain yet, but I mean, 1 minute you're here, you can tell us. Have you selected your captain yet? Have you remembered to do that, or is it just auto captain allocation?
Isak's definitely top 3, but not sure. It was between him,
and Morgan Gibbs White.
Can you guess the third one, Manny?
Haaland.
It's Saka. Yeah, I was actually contemplating him for captaincy this week. I think both Arsenal and Newcastle are going to start off strong. So
one thing I would agree with you, though, Mihai, is Dan Burn. I think he's a very solid FPL option, Dan Burn. I've used him a few times myself over the years. He's always delivered on points. I think
Will he
he's a
play?
good, solid option.
Will he play? Because who's the guy? Who's his competition? The guy they got from Chelsea, left back.
I think. Yeah. Well, I think he was going to play left center back. Him rather. So.
No. So centre backs will be Shah and probably Gahey eventually. And then left back will be
It's whether they play Lloyd, isn't it? The new
they've
one.
got Lloyd Kelly. They've got Lloyd Kelly who can play centre back or left back, but they've also got the guy they signed, the youngster from Chelsea, who's left back, good player. What's his name? They spent about 25 million on him, I think.
Hall. I just assumed they were money laundering.
Yeah, Lewis Hall, that's it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what?
To be fair though, with Dan Burn, I think with Dan Burn, because he's a local lad, he has that oomph with him with Newcastle, and he always does well for them. Like, I don't remember Dan Burn being that. He was good, but not like how good he was at Newcastle when he first went there. So I think as Dan Burn's in my side. He's on the bench, but he's a good cheap defender option. I think someone who will probably get you some decent points. If he goes to Newcastle, I will be putting him in my team. I'm keeping him away while he's at Palace, because as much as I like Palace under their new manager, I think they've just lost too much this year, where they're in a bit of a rebuild season.
The next team's very similar, but one of the things that they've done, which this could be a really clever move, which Misha's done, is brought in Jacob Murphy. Now, the reason I say Jacob Murphy could be a clever move is in pre-season, he's got 5 goals and 3 assists. He's Newcastle's biggest output player. He's been all over everything.
He's very
good. In pre-season. So he could be on. You know, everyone's gone for Gordon because everyone's gone for the name, but Murphy has been the main output player. You know, you look at him, you look at players like Oscar Bob, who've been doing great things in pre-season. What are your thoughts on this one, Neil? Are you thinking, because I'm with it apart from the Harry Winks part? I think it's a great team apart from the Harry Winks part.
Yeah, but he's a cheap option. So I think to get big hitters in there, Salah, Eze, Jota, Isak, Haaland, Trent, and Vardy, I think you have to have a cheap option in there. Now, whether Winks will benefit from the new point scoring system or not, I'm not sure. Murphy's an interesting one because he tends to have really good runs of form. So I think last season at one point he got in the team and he was making, goals and assists. I think he got 2 goals against Everton, I think it was. So I can see him scoring highly if he plays. Now, Almiron, there's been strong rumours that he's gonna go, so he would possibly be ahead of him. But it's just what they do. If Harvey Barnes is going to play on the left, do they switch Gordon to the right, assuming that they keep him? So the question mark I would have on Murphy is he going to be a regular? Winks will be a regular, but not a massive point scorer. But as I say, I think he's needed to keep the cost down. So yeah, I don't know about Murphy. I can see if he plays, he will score points. But the question is, if Gordon stays, he might play right wing for them.
I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to go straight on to the next one because this one's was very similar to Mihai's. We've got Charlie's team, which is Arne's Dirty Slots. Now, Charlie, a bit like Matt, he wants to play his cards close to his chest. He didn't want to tell us his starting 11 at this moment in time, so he just gave us a squad view. Now, there's some interesting players in the squad. Oscar Bob, who's had a great pre-season. Carvalho, who had a great pre-season.
Sorry, I think there's some news on Oscar Bob. I think he's got quite a nasty injury. I think that's just...
Really?
Yeah, people are saying that he's picked up quite a nasty...
Before you go further, James, Oscar Bob, I'll be completely honest, I hate Man City. he has got all the potential to be regarded as probably one of the best players in the Premier League in the next few years. When our under-21s played Man City, I haven't seen a player come and dismantle that Liverpool Academy side ever before until Oscar Bob. It's a shame that we don't still have the articles, because I don't have a full article based on how good Oscar Bob was in that game. He absolutely blew me away. He is unbelievable. And I think Charlie is very smart to use Oscar Bob. If he is injured, when he comes back from injury.
So he's fractured a bone in his leg, according to Sky Sports News.
That is a shame.
It's a shame that, because he's
2 goals, 4 assists in pre-season.
Yeah.
And I think he's going
That's
to
why
tear
he sold
up
out.
League 2.
Yeah.
League 2?
Yeah, you know, when they get pushed all the way back down to League 2.
That's one player Liverpool should run at them for if they get relegated. But they've sold Julian Alvarez, who's a World Cup winner, to put faith in this kid. That's how good he is. He is phenomenal.
Mihai, another player who's had a cracking pre-season is Minter for Brighton. He's been banging him in all over the place. So there's some interesting picks from Charlie in this team. When you look at sort of Bob, Carvalho, Minter, Livramento. So he's sort of, I think Charlie's guessing here that Trippier might not be here at the start of the season. Is there any that you're thinking, do you know what, I might steal that?
I think there's some interesting picks, but the one thing that it's 50-50 on these, like Minta and Carvalho as well. I look at them and I'm thinking they could absolutely smash it for in the beginning, and they could do well from the get-go, and then, we'll look like a bunch of fools for not picking them. But as I said with Solanke, I tend to avoid players that are relatively unknown and they're like in their first season. Now, if you're going to tell me, Mo Salah 2017-18, yeah, of course, a good counter argument, I guess. But I wouldn't go there just yet. And I feel like that's the risk with Charlie. What Charlie wanted to do here, from what I'm guessing, is he definitely wanted Trent, Mo Salah, Isaac, Watkins, and Haaland, and then some of the rest. When you look at that back line, where outside of Trent are you going to get points from? Because Konza, but how much will Barco play?
I think he starts for Brighton this year, to be honest. He come last year, didn't he? So I think he'll start for Brighton this year, Barco, and he looks the part. He looks so good. Charlie, I would give Charlie 10 out of 10 for this team. I'll be honest. I like that he's being adventurous and he's used players who I think they'll do very well. Your Minters, your Bobs, your Barco, Carvalho. I think that's the best draft I've seen with Haaland, Salah, and Trent.
Yeah. I'd give him a 9 because I would start Solanke over Watkins for the moment whilst Watkins gets up to speed, and then switch it once Watkins starts playing. That's the only thing that I'd do, that because you've got the transfer, you can have the money in the bank, and I'd do the switch at the right time. That's the only thing I'd do, I think, different to this. Now, this will be surprising. We've not seen a United player so far in stream.
Good.
It's about to change. Cosimo, I don't have the name of his team. It's to be confirmed. Has gone for
Rashford.
Liverpool should sign him. If you're part of our chat, there's some people that believe we should sign Rashford. We won't go into it. But Rashford, Gordon, Palmer, Saka, Rashford, Diego, he has gone for a midfield of strikers.
I think that's the worst draft we've seen today. And it's not just because of Rashford. You look at it and you think you'd expect to see players like Anderson, Bain as in the defence if you've got Haaland in the team. There's just flaws everywhere. Like we're all Liverpool fans. I don't think any of us put Alisson Becker in the side. Liverpool are quite prone to conceding a goal most games. So you're not really getting clean sheets there from him. Kyle Walker, he's quite injury prone. crap as well.
They'll
Anderson's
get you clean
decent.
sheets, but
Bale,
you won't get your assists.
Yeah, I don't think Bale will start as much as to start him in your team. Palmer's nailed on, but Rashford, he's not even the best Manchester United player. He's shite. Pardon me language, but he is. He's so overrated. That's why he didn't get a call up to the England side. He's just all pace and no end product, Rashford. And I think United, if PSG came in for him to replace Mbappe, I think United would have let him go. To be honest, I don't think he's all that. That's a mad choice. That's the maddest draft team I've seen. Honestly, I just can't understand
Rashford
it.
has managed 1 goal and 2 assists. The most devastating player for them in pre-season was Diallo with 2 goals and 1 assist. They have not had a good pre-season.
If I was going to put anyone in for United, I wouldn't. But I'd probably bank on Højlund this year because he didn't have a bad first season. And I do think he'll improve on it this season. Yeah, he's injured at the minute. But I think when he's back, he's probably a good option. He's going to get them goals. I think he's a good player. And I think he'll excel under Ruud van Nistelrooy when Ten Hag gets sacked in 6 weeks.
Let's hope Ten Hag doesn't get sacked. I want him to stay around for a while.
Yeah, unless they get a Southgate in.
Well, we've got another United player in Bruno Fernandes. Is that the one that you were about to say?
No, I actually wanted to say that I was contemplating getting a United midfielder as well. But I, to be honest, the one player that I was really interested in from United was, instead of Gibbs White, I would have gone for Garnacho. But I'm just a bit worried now that they're gonna start with Diallo, and so I'm probably not gonna touch him. But yeah, Bruno as a pick, he's like, if you want to think about it rationally, right? He has all the right attributes. He's involved in their play. He's probably their best passer. He's a world-class passer. I'd say he's really good in the final third of the pitch. He takes penalties. He's involved in all that. But it's just that he's a rat. And so I couldn't bear to see that name inside of my team. Like, I just couldn't. I don't know. Yeah.
I just don't know how you can look yourself in the mirror thinking I want United to do well so that I can get points in my FPL.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like some people who bet against your team, isn't it? Just so it don't hurt as much. But can't do it.
So with that team, I'm quite surprised more people haven't used Guardiola. He is unbelievable, that player. So I'm surprised more people haven't used him. It looks like City used him more as the left back option. So he is going to get forward in that system and probably get a few assists. He can get himself a few goals as well. I think he's had a few goals in pre-season, hasn't he, Guardiola? He's looked
Muniz
good. He
is an
looked
interesting
very,
one
very
as well.
good. Yeah, I mean, he played well last year, but Fulham's made some exciting signings, so it's whether Muniz starts, because I feel like some of the signings Fulham have made plays to Jimenez's strengths more than Muniz, to be fair.
I think if him and Smith Rowe can get a connection together, because obviously Smith Rowe's got 3 goals in pre-season, Muniz has got a goal and an assist and won a penalty. If those two can get a connection together, I think Fulham could actually do very well in the league. But it will be players like those kicking on with each other and doing something.
I'm surprised how many people are using Kudus. Like Kudus, for me, like Neil said, I don't think he'll play 90 minutes. He's someone who, a part of me's got this thing in the back of my head thinking, would Liverpool panic by someone like Kudus towards the end of the window? And I don't think I'd rule that out, given his links to like Heitinger and stuff. But I don't know. I think there's better options to use than Kudus in midfield. And Bruno Fernandes, he gets a booking like every other week, so he's just going to get you negative points every other week.
When I look at West Ham's pre-season, and one of the reasons I've avoided them is they drew with Fenerbahce, they beat Dagenham and Redbridge 1-0, they lost 3-1 to Wolves, they lost 3-1 to Palace, they drew 2-0 with Celta Vigo, managed to win on penalties. They haven't had a good pre-season. They've got a new manager. They brought in a load of players who need to gel. I like Fulkrug. I like couple of the players that they brought in whose names have just escaped me. Like, I like the player, but they haven't gelled yet, have they? They haven't come together, and they've not had a good pre-season, so they've not got momentum to lie back on. Liverpool, whilst it's the same squad, new manager, new ideas, are going into the season with momentum and winning games and stuff. I think when you've got new ideas, new players, and you've had a bad pre-season, you're pretty much lined up for a difficult start. So home against Villa, it don't get trickier really, because they'll be all over you. And I think Villa have done some clever business in Onana. Think's good. I think Ross Barkley's clever business. Yeah, they lost Diaby. Samuel Illing's good business for me. I think he's going to come through really well as a winger. So Cameron Archer, I think, is a cracking signing. I put him in my FBL for Sheffield United last year. I thought he was going to do numbers. I think he'll do some numbers this year as well, but we'll see. Rating out of 10 for this one, Matty?
1, just because it's got Fernandes in it.
It's fair.
Him and
FC
Silva,
Catalonia.
you've got them in your team. 0, without even looking.
Neil,
0 without looking.
I cannot believe he hasn't put Rashford in his team.
Same, yeah.
Maybe he's hoping Liverpool sign him.
Rashford's not expensive, and he thinks Liverpool should sign him. Yet he hasn't put him in his team. So that's a bit of a surprise. Well, Neto's an interesting one. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Cheaper option than Palmer, but won't return anything like Palmer. I think he's got a decent squad there. I think, because he's got some potentially high scoring defenders. Gusto did well last year. Reece James is injured again, so Gusto will play. Minte, as we said, I think he's a gamble, but I think he's a good gamble because I think he's potentially got goals in him. Lucho, interesting. Probably the cheaper.
Very interesting.
Him. I mean, he took his goals well on Sunday. Whether he'll be staying or not, because it seems like we've now said that we're open to offers, and he's got 3 strong front players. So I think it's a well balanced squad. To be honest,
the only thing that this strikes me as is there's so many players from so many clubs, apart from Newcastle players. You know, if Gahey signs for Newcastle, then he's got 4 Newcastle players. Someone's going to have an off day. There's a couple of players that will lose every week. I
don't know, though, James, because I'm not so sure. I feel like with Newcastle, you'll know where their season's at by about 3 weeks in, if they're going to do well or if they're going to be average. Gusto is probably one of the best buys you can get, given now Reece James injured. He was fantastic in FPL last year. Neto, it's in this team for me. It's Neto. They've got that many players. Chelsea, I don't think he starts. I think the only nailed on players for Chelsea really is like Palmer and probably Gusto. To be fair, I just don't think Neto starts every week. You think they've got like Sterling as well, who was very good for them since he's signed. They're not going to drop Raheem Sterling. He's probably going to rotate. Neto also is always injured. So how many weeks till you're transferring him out because he's injured? Loads of our fans wanted Neto when he was at Wolves, and I think we got the better player from Wolves in Jota. I've never been massively on the Neto chain due to his injuries. And the same with Lucho. I don't think he starts against Ipswich. I think he starts Gakpo.
I think he starts Diaz. I think Diaz got it at Seville. I think he nailed his place.
I don't know, though. I think he's in fantastic form. Gakpo's never really had a chance on the left, and I think he will on the slot. I just think he offers that little bit more. I think if you're going with Jota, you probably need Gakpo for the hold-up play more than Lucho. I love Lucho. I don't want him to go. I think he's fantastic, but he is just the mad one in there, because you do think if Liverpool are putting it out there that they're prepared to sell him, you'd assume Slot's told Richard Hughes that out of the attackers I'd lose Diaz first. So that would then indicate that the rest of them are above Lucho in his pecking order. The rest of his team's solid. I quite rate that team, to be fair, from Carter. Considering he's so controversial, I was hoping for him to have a controversial team, but I rate it.
The only thing that I don't see is the goalkeepers. I don't think Brentford or then keep any clean sheets. And for an extra mil, you can have Raya.
Yeah, Charlie's used Dean Henderson. As well.
Yeah.
I think quite a few people have used Henderson. Good shot stopper. It's just how Palace start the season. I don't think they'll be as good as they were last year. They've lost too many players.
Next one we've got is Reece. And some players straight away like stand out in terms of Timber. That's the first mention of him. Saliba, the first time we've seen him. Nori, Spurs keeper. Rodrigo, which is, with you talking quite often about the change in points for players and progressive passes and duels, Rodrigo actually could do better. And he did really well last season, actually. So he could actually be a really good option based on the point scoring system. Mihai, what do you think of this one? This is a thinker for me. It's like I think there's improvements that can be made, but I think there's some players that got me thinking. Like Rodrigo's got me thinking. That's Rodrigo, not Rodri.
Yeah, it's Rodri. Yeah. I don't know. I just don't like this one. I don't like going for Vicario as an option. Like the only reason I got Porro is because he's basically a right winger for Spurs, and that's it. Because their defense, just you don't target Spurs defense ever. With Arsenal, I think they have a good first fixture, but then I wouldn't expect them to. Well, they have a great defense, but I still wouldn't put it past them to kind of struggle afterwards with the fixtures that I have. And also, you go for Saliba and Timber, and I'm not sure Timber starts, and I'm not sure how much he plays if he does. So that's a worry you have pretty much every other week. And then you also have Aid Nuri, who I've said I wouldn't go for because of the fixtures. Neto, I wouldn't touch Chelsea if it's outside of Palmer, and maybe Gusto for like the first 2 weeks, but then you've got another worry. Rodri, I know Rodri kind of gets the odd goal here and there, but I wouldn't go for him. If you want to get someone from City, you really want to get someone from City, I assume you'd go for Foden and that's it. If you can afford him, then I just wouldn't go for anyone. I think there's better options at like 6.57 than Rodri, who's a DM. Same with McAllister, and Tony is, a decent pick like no matter the season. But I feel like this season, if it were up to me, I'd go with the Palace striker. I'm forgetting. Yeah, Mateta instead of Tony.
So we've got 2 more left. Bear with us. If you are new here, please like and subscribe to the channel. We go live every day, and you can join our FPL League. I think there's, we're on like 2.5, 3 pages now, so there's loads of people in it. Using the code FU0F54 to join our FPL League. Come on stream and tell the people on stream how much better you are than them, because you can see how you're outscoring them on FPL. So when Neil has this brilliant opinion about Bobby Clark being sold with a 17.5% sell-on fee, you can say, yeah, but Neil, you don't know anything because I'm above you in FPL. And I'm sure he would love to receive that comment. Stitch's team is an interesting team for me because, again, it's gone Saliba, Odegaard, first time we've seen him, and he's a big point scorer in FPL normally. Bruno Guimaraes, the first time we've seen him. Kanji, the first time we've seen him. And someone else that's gone for Alisson Becker, which...
I just think it's a waste of Liverpool players using Alisson. It's just a waste. We've got so many high point scoring players to use Alisson when we do concede. We do. So I try to avoid any Liverpool defender bar Trent myself, because even Virgil loses the clean sheet bonuses and stuff. But Saliba's the one I've got. Last year, the whole season, I had Saliba, Gabriel and Raya, and it worked well. So I rate anyone who's put an Arsenal defender in, because I think they're the best defence in the league.
Out of 10, I think this is a solid 8 for me. I think it could do good points as long as everyone plays. There's a couple of players who might not. Kanji might not play, but that's about it.
I think it's a bit boring. Just with I think you're putting a lot of pressure on Minter to do well for you because, I mean, Bruno will do well, but again, there's better sixes out there you could choose. It's a lot of pressure on Minter to do well. Salah, we've seen last year, has seen to turn into a bit more of a provider, so you're not going to get as many points with Salah as I think people expect from previous seasons. Same with Odegaard. I think Odegaard for me, he's unbelievable. He's often the pass before the pass, which that's what's always put me off him in FPL. That he does never get the assist, but he'll do everything and then not get the assist. But I'd love him. Liverpool's one player I adore in the league, but I'd give it a solid 8. I think it's got the foundations to do very well. I think it's a mad choice to use a Kanji over someone like Vardal or something, but it's solid. I think it's just got a few tweaks, which stitches will probably make, you'd imagine, in week 2, week 3, taking your Allisons out or your Minters out. But Minter could be a good shot. What a game to announce yourself to the Premier League, by the way, Evan. At Goodison Park. I like that.
Final one is mine. I've been a bit tactical in what I've put in and what I've not. So I try and do 2 players, but not everyone in the same position. So I don't want 3 players from one club or anything like that. My rule is 2, not 2 strikers, 2 midfielders. It has to be different departments. So if it's a 0-0, basically you're not screwed if you've got 2 strikers.
Have you decided your captain there, James? That's
no,
done?
I haven't done captain yet. I've purposely hidden a couple of players on the bench as well.
Yeah, that's a bit of a mad one, the captain.
But the reason I put 2 of the players in is there's 2 picks for me that I think will get a lot of points and get a lot of minutes that people won't think, and it's the Villa player Rodgers and Cameron Archer. As much as I firmly believe Watkins will play, Archer can also play with Watkins because Watkins doesn't just play as a central striker, he runs channels and stuff like that. Rodgers for Villa in pre-season has got, and that's the main reason I brought him in.
You're the only one who's used De Bruyne as well. Out of any of the ones today, you're the only one who's used Kevin.
Yeah.
If fit, he's easily the best midfielder to put in the league. It's just if he stays fit. But I'm not putting him in because he has got a top knot, and I think he looks a twat.
He got rid of it. He was slick back in the thing. But yeah, Rodgers got three goals, 2 assists, and Cameron Archer got 3 goals in pre-season. They were the main impact for Villa. I think Watkins will come in and make an impact. I think Ross Barkley will come in and make an impact. But I think Rodgers has got a good part to play. I think Archer's got a good part to play. I don't think they're going to be in it for a whole season, but I think they're really good for the start of the season. And then obviously 2 Arsenal defenders in goalkeeper and a defender. Newcastle keep clean sheets and Trent just gets points. That's my logic. And Diego's going to be our striker. So I haven't put Salah in. That's the big omission that I've made. I've avoided Salah because I'm not sure in this slot system if he's going to be more the creator or the goal scorer, and how it's going to, because I think we're going to get goals from everywhere. I think midfielders are expected to get goals now. I think everyone's expected to get goals. I'm not sure how that will deal in Salah generating so many points. So that's mine. Go on, Neil. Give me an out of 10. How have I done?
I like Rodgers. Rodgers is another player that's come out of the Championship and looks like he's going to do really well in the Premiership. So the likes of him and Walton, I think that's both of them very, very good players. I'm not convinced by De Bruyne because I'm not sure he'll stay fit. But whilst he's in the team, then he'll get you some points. Probably not as many points as Phil Foden would. Archer, I just don't think Archer will play. So Watkins will play. Bailey will play on the right. Be interesting to see who plays on the left. So Archer will probably be a bench option, I think.
Yeah.
And
I've said Burn. I'm not convinced that he will start either. So yeah, 7 out of 10.
I like the idea of Gusto, but I can't bring a Chelsea player in.
Yeah. The one I'm surprised at, I thought so. Brereton Diaz has signed for Southampton, and he's a forward, and he gets goals, doesn't he? He got goals for Sheffield United. I thought people might have him in midfield, but seemingly not. I might have to make a change.
It's trying to pick those weird players that are going to come through well, isn't it? There's always the cheap players that are going to do well. So it might be Rodgers, it might not be. At some point, we'll all end up making it. It might be Carvalho, and suddenly everyone makes the transfers and makes everything thing. But if you're new to the channel, like and subscribe. Join our FPL League. Code is FU number 0 F54. Get involved. We go live every day at 7:30. Share, what you got right, what you got wrong. You'll see how you compare against everyone else. Celebrate in the chat. Thank you very much to Mihai, Neil, and Matty. Even though Neil and Matty have still kept their FPL teams completely hidden from the world because some people take this seriously. Charlie's mainly the one that takes it seriously, I'll be honest. I think Charlie wins in terms of what the teams we looked at. I think he's got the most interesting and well-rounded. I think
I thought Carter's was good.
Carter's.
Charlie or Carter. Yeah.
I'd go Steven.
Steven's got a good one as well, to be fair. But what they have now done is exposed all their options, so I'm going to go and spend 2 hours on fantasy footy analysing what's changing. So, nice one, lads.
Thank you, everyone. We'll catch you on the next one. Take care.